Wow, wow, wow. So Alonso, that's what we're calling it? According to Scott Boras, that is what he wants to trademark right now. We went from Yamasoto to Alonso. Wow, these guys are getting really, really creative. Really, really creative. All right, before we get into the Alonso uh, extravaganza, going to the New York Mets, possibly in 2025, and obviously Alonso resigning. I want to talk about Francisco Alvarez. Wow, wow, this kid. I mean, already you could see that this guy. I mean, obviously last year, put that aside. Early in spring training, you can see this guy's got the makings of a superstar. A superstar at the young age of, what is he, just 21 years old. I mean, this guy's got mammoth power, mammoth power. And I was just like looking last year. Last year, I don't know if everybody remembers, he hit that moon shot of 467 feet. I don't know if it was in Arizona, but it was a moon shot. And not only that, he had 25 home runs, and almost half those home runs were well over 400 feet. This guy has mammoth power. Not only does he have mammoth power, he's got great back control. I mean, these home runs, he's going with the pitch. He's going down the right field line. He's going oppo. He's not trying to pull. He is approaching the game like basically like a kind of like a seasoned vet as far as hitting for power. I mean, it is just a sight to see when a young player goes with a pitch and is able to hit it to the opposite field. I mean, that is special, a special type of talent right there. And I know last year he got tired, so a lot of the numbers are skewed very, very negative. But I got a lot of high hopes. You know, there were a lot of videos. I don't know if anybody's seen it. There was a lot of videos of Francisco Alvarez doing all these intense workouts. And I know he heard all the mumblings and the rumblings about how he got tired at the end of last season, about how he wasn't had the endurance, he wasn't in let's just say MOB shape to last the whole season. So I feel right now we're gonna come out. This guy's gonna come out and you know just something we haven't seen in a very long time. We haven't had any of these like really, really superstars. I know Pete Alonso, yes, he came on the scene as a 24-year-old, but I think we're gonna have a very, very special guy for a long time. I know that in terms of giving him an extension, there are some complications because we're over the luxury tax threshold. But you know what? We're going to get to watch somebody special. So I just wanted to mention that. If you want to drop a comment, what do you think? Does he have superstar potential? I think he does. I really do. I mean, I was looking at his baseball savant numbers. Nothing really blows you away. His barrel percentage, that was probably his best attribute. He barrel percentage at 84% of the time. Average exit velocity was 65%. Hard hit percentage was 72%. Sweet spot only 6%. I mean, he's got a lot of numbers that you could just tell the guy was tired. He struck out a lot. He didn't walk that much, although he walked almost, it's at 42. I mean, 50 is like middling. That's middle of the road. He swung and missed a lot, but this guy right now, I'm waiting to see him fresh, recovered, a whole offseason with a whole brand new workout. Really, kind of the sky's the limit. If you think of that, like the core, the meat of the lineup with Francisco Alvarez, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, we're building kind of something special, especially around the offense. I mean, obviously we have Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo is a very special player in his own right. And then for Mark Vientos and some of these young guys like Drew Gilbert or Luis Angel Cunha, we got a really good unit of homegrown players. So I like what I'm seeing on the offensive end. Okay, so let's go to this Yama Alon. I'm sorry, I was about to say Yamasoto. Alon Soto. I'm sorry. Okay, and that's trademarked by Mr. Scott Boras. So there was a rumor already, and I'm surprised we're seeing it. And this rumor was started by none other than USA's Today's Bob Nightingale, who already has been spreading the rumor around that the New York Mets are already among the favorites to land agent free agent Juan Soto for next year. So they say the Mets are not only expected to strongly pursue, but could be among the favorites for outfielder Juan Soto when he's a free agent next winter. I honestly, this is my opinion. Like Bob, he's had his thing with predicting and not being right, and just kind of like in my estimation, guessing, and then saying things that are blatantly obvious and pretending like he was the first to notice it. I mean, Bob being Bob, Bob being Bob. And this is another example. It's quite obvious that Juan Soto is going to command a contract that only very few teams can afford. It's quite obvious that the Mets right now are in a reset mode where they're not investing in players because there are a better crop of free agents next year. You got the Dodgers already investing in Ohtani and Mookie Betts and a bunch of good players in their team, Freddie Freeman. So they're probably not going to be in a running for Juan Soto. So you have obviously the Yankees, you have the Mets, you could have the Red Sox, you could have a couple other teams. But Steve Cohen and David Stearns are going to be shedding a lot of payroll. So it makes all this common sense in the world for Mets to be among the favorites. So, I mean, it's not anything mind blowing. It's not mind blowing. Juan Soto is a premier slugger slash hitter. He's a premier hitter in this league, probably a top 3 hitter, and he's going to be going into he's going to be a free agent when he's only 26. So, of course, the Mets, it will be negligent if they're not interested. And based on about the amount of money that they're going to be shedding, they're going to have a lot of money to spend. Hence the Alonso Soto rumors. So, I mean, it's highly possible for the Mets to go go after these guys. And let's get into that right now because, why not? So, according to Scott Boras explained that Soto wants to play a year in New York to determine how he feels about the city and the Yankees before making a long-term commitment. Okay, I mean, the Yankees and the Yankee fans are trying to put pressure on Juan Soto, saying, come on, sign. Yes, sign now. We want you long term. Obviously, the Yankees want him. They invested and gave up assets to get him. So it would make sense. It would make Brian Cashman look better if he was able to sign Soto long term. But that's not going to happen because that's not what Scott Boras does. So this is a nice little spin saying, oh, he wants to get to know the city, this and that. Oh, yeah, I hope he gets to know the city. And then he can, if he loves the city, he could sign with Mr. Steve Cohen across town. So, yeah, I really hope he loves the city. Okay, so now if either New York team showed a hankering to go to the top of the market now, perhaps free agency for one or other could be circumvented. But if history is our guide, and we are talking about Boras history, especially his best clients tend to let free agent market determine their prices. So as we see, the most recent example with Bellinger just signed a 3-year, $80 million contract. He was looking for $200 million. But as we see, Boras usually lets the market determine the prices. This year, no matter what Boras tried to do, no matter what he thought Bellinger could get, the market only commanded him getting $80 million. So how does this, you could kind of consider this a Boras fiasco. We know a couple of years, what happened with Michael Conforto, a lot of good members on the channel reminded me of that when Michael Conforto turned down a 5-year, $100 million contract. Boras said, hey, you know what? Turn that down. We'll go to free agency next year, and you're going to get more money. It didn't happen. It's been a disaster. I think since then he's made $36 million, but there's a lot of question marks with Michael Conforto going forward. It probably would have been wise for him to get that $100 million. Okay, going forward. So Boras goes, my job is to look at each scenario and respond to the well-being of the player. That's the answer. Sometimes that means staying with their team, and sometimes that means going to a new team. I could never ever gauge that until you're in the situation. So basically saying, and this is a nice way of him saying, sometimes your team will pay the highest amount, and sometimes a new team will pay the highest amount. Boris is notorious for having his clients go to the highest bidder. Bottom line, and that's a lot of players who go sign in with Boris. That's what they go. They go with the intention of saying, "Hey, Scott, get me the most money. I'm going to go with the most money." If you're a player who doesn't want to go with the highest bidder, you're more often than not going to sign with an agent like Scott Boras because that's his reputation. So that's why a lot of Mets fans were kind of concerned. Like, does Pete really want to play here? Or if the Cubs or Yankees or another organization say, here's $300 million, is Alonso going to run out of New York? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's hoping that, Boris could just negotiate a mega contract with the Met. I don't know. I don't know. So Boris in his history has negotiated 26 contracts of at least $125 million. Okay. Okay, so a lot of people are saying Alonso could go the Brandon Nimmo route. We all know Nimmo became a free agent. He explored the free agent market, spoke to a bunch of teams, but at the end of the day, he came back to the New York Mets on a very, reasonable 8-year, $162 million contract. And that might be how Pete Alonso plays the situation. According to owner Steve Cohen he said it a couple of days ago, Pete Alonso has deserved the right to explore his value. He has deserved the right to explore his value. That's bottom line. He said these guys, quite honestly, only have one time in their career to speak to other teams and basically get to have this experience. So that was quite interesting. And then Cohen saying that not many owners would say that, but not many owners have $20 billion. So at the end of the day, we know that Scott is going to try to get the most money he can out of any team. Any team, Met fans obviously would like to acquire both these guys, both Alonso and Soto, but it's basically going to see how the market works, right? And which big teams are going to be involved, because those are really the situations that push the needle. If you have the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees all bidding on the same guys, that's when you're going to see these contracts enter like the mega stratosphere, like you did with the Yamamoto contract. The Yamamoto was supposed to only get like around a $200 million contract, but now you have the Dodgers, you have the Mets, you have the Red Sox, you have all the Yankees, you have all these mega cities, big market teams bidding on this one guy. So the contract's going to go out of control. It's supply and demand, supply and demand. There's only one of Yamamoto, and this is demand from 5 or 6 big market teams. Now we're going to have to see the market next year. What is going to be the market for a first baseman of Pete Alonso's caliber? He's going to be 30 years old. Obviously, we know he's a slugger. He can hit 45, 50 home runs. His average is not there. And how does he mean? We know that Steve Cohen's going to offer him like probably around $200 million. Now, is he worth that type of money to another organization not named the Mets? Like the Mets, I feel that he's going to be worth more money to Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is going to be breaking records. The Mets fans want to buy his merchandise. The Mets fans have a near and dear place. They have a special place in their hearts for Mr. Pete Alonso. So I feel that he has so much more value to the New York Mets. And that's not going to be lost upon Steve Cohen. Now Soto, that's going to be the player that I think gets that crazy contract, gets that contract like an Otani, Yamamoto, because you're going to have big market teams. Right off the bat, you're going to have the Mets and you're going to have the Yankees right now. So you have two big market teams. Boston Red Sox, they've wanted to make a big splash, but they haven't made a big splash. Why? Are they saving funds? Are they gearing up for next year? The Phillies, they're always a team that spends on the right player. Maybe Texas Rangers. There was rumors about them going after Jordan Montgomery, but all of a sudden they pulled back. So is there going to be a situation where a bunch of these teams have been targeting a Juan Soto? Yeah, I mean, quite possibly. So you're going to have big market team. You're going to have good organizations with winning pedigree that have saved their money and saved their funds. So it could be a wild situation. But how much is too much? How much is he worth? I mean, Otani is a pitcher and he's a hitter. MVP caliber hitter, Cy Young caliber pitcher, and he commanded $700 million. So he could do two things. Juan Soto, is he going to go over the $500 million mark? He's a hitter and not much of a, I mean, I wouldn't say his defense is of that elite level. So I would just say he's just an elite hitter. So would he be worth over $500 million? I mean, a guy like Mookie Betts, I think has more to do with winning. I think he would affect you in a more positive way. And we know Mookie's contract I think is around $360 million. Mike Trout, he has the highest contract for a player. I think it's $426 million. If I'm wrong, I'm just this is off the top of my head. So Juan Soto, anything over $426 million, he would be shattering, and he already turned down 400 something million years ago. It was like a 15-year contract. It would be an average annual value of $29.8 million. But that was 3 or 4 years ago with the Nationals, so he would have bypassed about 4 years of arbitration, and he would have been making $30 million a year for 15 years. Now, he turned that down. So I think he's going to be looking for at least a $500 million payday. I really do. And possibly more than that. Now, is the market going to bear that? Are the teams going to bid that? Or is it going to be a situation where we're seeing MLB teams playing hardball with Boris clients? Because that is what we've seen this offseason. Now, is this going to foreshadow what's going to happen next year? I don't know. That's why if I'm a guy like Alonso and he's not Soto, I might be willing to listen to a Mr. Steve Cohen, because if I'm Steve Cohen, I know you love and you respect Pete, but at the end of the day, it's all about winning. And if you want to, and if you make him, let's just say you make him a very, very fair offer, or let's just say an above market value offer, and he's like, I still want to go to free agency. I don't know. At the end of the day, you gotta think about your team. You gotta think about the team. I don't think Alonso. I don't think it benefits the Mets to be held up by Alonso. Let's just say you wanna bid on Alonso in free agency, and now all of a sudden that intersects your chances with Soto, right? So you're busy with Alonso and you're waiting on Alonso's answer, and now all of a sudden maybe that takes away leverage in the Soto negotiations. Or let's just say, I don't know. I just would rather lock Alonso up now. I would rather lock him up now than have these two guys play you next year, because that would be a disaster if we don't get any of them. That would be a disaster. And then also, too, we got pitching to worry about. There's just so many things. Like, at least get the Alonso contract worked out right now. That is one contract you have control over right now. He's in your organization. You can resign him. We got so many things to do next offseason. Those are my opinions. I'm sorry about this video going a bit longer. Just a lot of stuff that I don't think this should really the Soto stuff we shouldn't really be talking about for quite some time, but it's just really interesting that Bob Nightingale brings it up right now. So what do you think? Drop a comment, like, subscribe. I will be talking to you very soon. Have yourself a great day, night, whenever you're listening to this. Later.